Hey, it's Rebecca. Welcome to Returning, a podcast to return to yourself and the wisdom within. I'm so glad you're here with me. Thanks for returning. This podcast is for people who are on a spiritual journey, anyone who knows that they're here for a reason and wants to make the most of their life. But we're never meant to go through this alone, and leaning on and learning from each other is such an important part of the path. And in this episode, I am handing the space over to you to hear your questions, your longings, your struggles, your breakthroughs. And we're going to hash it out together to see if we can follow the thread and all learn a little or perhaps unlearn a little. As always, you will find a soul inquiry prompt at the end of this episode for you to explore what your inner wisdom has to say on the matter. Today we are exploring the question, what does living the question mean? It's a gorgeous question and one that I really love to reflect on. It changed everything for me when I really understood how to embody my intuition by living the question. So I sense that maybe feeling into this question will create some big shifts for you as well. Before we jump in, let's take a moment to arrive together, to land together, and step into sacred space. So taking a deep breath in, and in the center of your heart, imagining a beautiful flower, inviting this flower to open petal by petal, revealing a light in the middle. This light represents your inner self, your wise self, your soul, the part of you that is always guiding you and available for you to return to it. Take another deep breath in now with me and really inviting it to step forward. And as always, taking a moment now to acknowledge the keepers and custodians of the land where you are and where I am too, known and unknown. Beautiful. Let's begin by listening to today's question.
Hi, Rebecca. I've heard you talk a lot about living the question, and I want to know if you can explain this more because it resonates deeply with me, but I don't know if I understand it 100% correctly.
Live the question is a phrase that comes from one of my favorite books called Letters to a Young Poet by the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke. It's actually the title that inspired my title for my book, Letters to a Starseed. In Letters to a Young Poet, Rilke invites the reader not to seek the answers to life's big questions, but instead to live the questions and allow the answers to emerge over time. One of my favorite poems in the book reads like this: "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and to try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." So to live the question really means to fully engage with the uncertainties of life rather than simply seeking quick or easy answers. Living the question really invites us to be open to actually experience and embody and explore and reflect and acknowledge that the journey itself can be just as valuable as the destination. In essence, to me, living the question really encourages a state of curiosity, of wonder, of humbleness and humility as we navigate the complexities of being human. Living the question, I believe, is how mystics have lived through the ages. And in my opinion, it's how some of the most brilliant, wise minds and creative minds have stumbled across their findings, their inventions, and their creations. Anyone who has been on the spiritual journey for a little while knows that the spiritual journey actually never ends. And the more that we learn, the more questions actually emerge. I see living the question as really a way of life. And it's actually one of the foundations of what I believe it means to be an embodied mystic or someone who is committed to living a soul-led life. Because it really requires us to act before we know the step-by-step plan. We're really living into the call within. My teachers always taught me that all the intuition and insights in the world are pointless without grounded action, integration, embodiment, and action, which to me is like the living into bit of Live the Question. When we live the question, we stop waiting for the answer and instead choose to live into it. We take baby steps and let life reveal to us through the living. So it's like we enter into a sacred dance with life. So it's like a co-creative experience. And we find ourselves like merging with the sacred rather than seeing ourselves as separate from it. Often when we are living the question, we are offering the question up to source, up to the universe, up to life, up to the goddess, whatever we believe in. And then we're allowing life to communicate back to us. So when we're living the question, we might find ourselves journaling on the question or meditating on the question or walking with the question. And then as we go through our days, we may receive messages from life through people we meet, conversations we have, things we read, things that appear upon our path. So this is what I mean by entering this co-creative dance with life. We shift from trying to figure it all out ourselves before we even take a step to really entering that dance with life. We do enter into also this world of wonder and awe instead of expecting certainty every single moment of every day. So some questions, I'm always living into questions. I always have a few on the go, but I wanted to give some examples of some questions that I've lived into in the past and some that I'm living into now as well. So, some bigger questions that I think are great to live into depending on where you are in your life path are things like, what do I want to devote my life to? What do I want to devote my life to? Another one could be, what does the next chapter of my life have in store for me? What does the next chapter of my life have in store for me? One that I'm really living into now is, what kind of leader do I want to be? So this is a question for me. I'm feeling into, what am I now? I'm 41 now, and I'm feeling into this fifth decade of my life. And by the time I'm 50, what kind of leader do I want to be? Another one that I've been living into for 3 years since I had my son, and now I've got my daughter, I'm definitely living into, that is, what kind of mother do I want to be? What is my understanding of mother, for example? Another one could be, what kind of parent do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? One that I've lived into before is, where's home for me? Should I travel or should I study again? But the question that is most present with me at the moment is, what kind of mother do I want to be? What kind of mother am I being called to be, while also honoring my soul mission? Another question that I've lived into before is, and I'm definitely living into now, is how do I honor my health challenges and what my body needs? I've got, between my daughter and I right now, we've got a couple of challenges. And so it's like, how do I honor my health and what my body needs amidst the busyness of having a newborn and, like running a business and all of that. Other questions is, how do I make the most of my time and my energy? How can I find flexibility with my work? Those kind of things. So there's so many different questions that we can live into. The questions that I'm living into really take form through my inner dialogue. And this is like anytime, I'm always living into at least one question. But it really is about like providing a structure for my inner dialogue. And then I find that, different conversations that I'm having with people, I can live into them through chatting with friends, through talking with colleagues, for example. And some practices that I do to support the living into the question, outside of just like normal life, normal conversations with my loved ones and friends and peers. I also do some structured practice around it. And so, perhaps you can give this a go as well. So one practice that I find really supportive to help me live into the question, I find the journaling and walking practices are particularly powerful when it comes to living into the question because there's motion involved. So when you're journaling, you're moving your hands, so your hands moving across the page, and you're essentially allowing yourself to be written. So you're in that receptive mode. You're receiving a possible answer. You're living into the possibility of receiving some guidance, and it doesn't have to be right or wrong. It's just like, oh, this is more information I'm receiving along the way. So there's motion. You're in motion. You're in the not knowing as well. So it's like you've got the container of the page, you've got the container of your practice, and you're in that receptive mode. And the rhythm of the writing definitely helps me. And likewise with the walking practice, the meditative walking practice. So walking with a question, you really can shift out of the linear mind because it's so physical. So you're in your body, you're embodying yourself. And then the walk can be the container. So maybe you're going to walk for 20 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's an hour. But the container to live into is the maybe length of time or the place that you're walking from and to. And the physicality of the walking, like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, and moving forward in the walk really gets you out of the paralysis of the not knowing the answer. So often we don't take the next step because we're trying to figure out every step along the way to get us from A to B, or we're trying to find the exact answer before we even take the next step. And so stepping into living into the question through walking, one foot in front of the other, also allows us to enter into a state of rhythm. Many different traditions have dance, have drumming, have these rhythmic practices to allow us to receive guidance, to receive wisdom, to receive answers. And so, just the rhythm of walking and the motion of walking really invites that flow and the possibility of inspiration, being inspired as you walk with a question. The other thing I like to play with while I am walking with a question is the possibility of walking towards an answer. So each step you're taking is taking you closer to the possibility of answering the question. When I do these two practices, whether it's journaling with a question or walking with a question, I find that I feel in flow with life. So I'm flowing with life. I'm part of the river of life. I'm in a conversation with life. Particularly the walking with a question, it's amazing when you are walking with a question and then all of a sudden you begin to notice the things that cross your path, like literally cross the path in front of you. And you can shift into seeing these things as inspiration for the answers. And this is why walking with a question is such a great creative practice as well, because the beauty of everything around you, the sounds, the colors, the light, the shadows, really can be inspiration for you to create with. And moreover, it can also just really be an invitation for you to enter into a conversation of everything around you. So it's like everything around you is conspiring to help you answer the question and live into the question that you have. I can tell when I'm living into a question rather than being kind of frozen until I find an answer. I can find I'm living the question when I'm feeling curious and playful, inspired, present, and open to seeing awe and wonder and beauty around me. To live the question really is a way of living an intuitive life. It is a way of living an embodied life, really embodying our soul, of living a soul-led life. And living the question really is about returning again and again to the wisdom within and then acting on it each and every day, which is, of course, is what this podcast is all about. So in today's episode, we have spoken quite a bit about journaling and soul inquiry. If you have listened to episodes before, you'll know about the soul inquiry practice. It is a practice where we enter into a direct dialogue with our inner self. I like to write my answers in a notebook or a journal, as I find that I receive them more deeply that way. And we're about to do a soul inquiry together now, but if you don't have a pen and paper handy, feel free to do what works for you. You can hold the question in your heart or speak it out loud and receive your inner wisdom that way. So we are going to get guidance just now on what question you're being called to live into. So maybe you already have a question that you are aware that you're living into, or perhaps there's a new one waiting for you. So today's soul inquiry prompt is, what question are you living into right now? So just allowing yourself to receive a question that you are wanting to live into right now. Remembering you don't need to know the answer to this question. It can be a big one or a small one. What question are you living into right now? And now, as always, it's time to commit to a grounded action. So I want you to write down or think about a baby step you can take in that direction to integrate it into your life today. So what's a baby step you can take to act on the wisdom that's come through today for you? It's been a beautiful episode. Let's share a deep breath together as we close this sacred space that we have stepped into together. And I'm so grateful for you being here. If you have a question you'd like me to talk through with you in another episode, then feel free to send us a voice note to podcast@rebeccacampbell.me. If you'd like to keep returning to yourself and returning here with me, then please hit subscribe. If you'd like the show notes from today's episode or to sign up to receive each new episode directly to your inbox, then just head over to rebeccacampbell.me/podcast. Do you hear the call of nature? Are you endlessly curious about life's big questions? Are you longing to deepen your relationship with the sacred pulse of life? If so, come and explore the Inner Temple Mystery School training. It's an accredited 9-month training for mystics, artists, intuitives, and healers. Come over and check it out at rebeccacampbell.me/mystery school.